Welcome everyone. Will Alexander from REINZ, and today I'm talking to Joe Ray, Head of Property Management at REINZ, and really wanted to cover off a lot of what REINZ offer people in the industry, because we're a software company and quite often people turn to us and ask for legal advice and support, which we're always happy to do. I've been in property management for a long time and I love it. But that's not who we are, and there are specialists in this area, and that is what REINZ is all about. So today we're going to talk to Joe briefly about REINZ, what they do, what they provide their members, and just a bit of an overview. So welcome, Joe.
Great, thanks, Will, and thanks for having me on today.
No problem. So for our listeners, can you provide a brief overview of REINZ, what you guys provide, and just a bit of history behind the organisation?
Sure, so I'll start with a bit of history. So the Real Estate Institute of New Zealand, and a lot of people struggle with how do you say REINZ, so it's REINZ, and I'll refer to that throughout the session. We're a member organisation and we've been in business for more than 100 years. So REINZ support real estate professionals, and that includes residential salespeople, commercial and industrial brokers and sales, and residential property managers. So our members follow best practice codes of conduct. Prior to the REA forming in 2018, all real estate salespeople and the majority of property managers were members of REINZ. But as we know, property management was left out of the Real Estate Agents Act in 2008, and therefore property management was not regulated. But at the moment, we still have around that 16,000 membership mark. So we have a lot of property management members, and that's growing all the time as things change and evolve so quickly in our profession.
I never knew REINZ was around for 100 years, so there you go, I've just learned something.
We're resilient.
Yeah. So roughly 4 years ago, REINZ introduced your role as Head of Property Management, which was absolutely long overdue. Can you provide a bit of context about why this role was created and some of the objectives for the industry?
Sure. So REINZ could see that the property management profession was undergoing a lot of rapid changes, and they needed to increase their support and resources in this area. So we've seen a number of property managers join REINZ in the last 3 years, and over 30% of those members have come from what I would class as small business, so 3 or less property managers. My role is to understand the challenges that our people are facing at the coalface and ensure that we keep members up to date with changing legislation and emerging trends. Having been a business owner myself for many, many years and working in all facets of the role, I can absolutely relate to the challenges.
I remember through COVID what REINZ did for the industry and all the updates and how to tackle the different levels. What it originally was, and then it was the traffic light system, but all that information that you guys provided during that was just invaluable in my old role as General Manager of Property Brokers. Many people will be unaware of the work that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to the work that REINZ does on behalf of property management, especially with HUD and MB. Are you able to provide an overview of what involvement you have on behalf of the sector and how you advocate for property management?
Sure. So I've seen a huge change in this during my time, and we are now regularly invited to share our property management member views with HUD and MB, as well as government officials. So we're definitely at the table. This is in addition to making all the formal submissions around changes to legislation, where we go out to members and get feedback. Our legal team spend a lot of time fighting for things that we don't think are right, and we don't always win, but we're there at the table with a voice. It's really important to us to hear the challenges that our members are facing and to be able to feed those back at government level. We gave a lot of valuable feedback regarding concerns around the heating calculations, and I'm really pleased to see that we know a change is coming in regard to new builds and apartments. I'm also involved in the bond transformation working group. So the current bond system's over 20 years old, and it's received some government funding for a full transformation. So that is a really important part of our role as property managers, and you're going to see some fantastic changes in the next, I would say, 12 months, where their whole system's going to be overhauled and more user-friendly. But I would say that I was talking with HUD and MD on a weekly, if not daily basis in the last 6 months. They are very connected to what's going on at REINZ. They want the feedback from our members on the ground who are facing the challenges. So we absolutely have a voice there.
It's so good. And just hearing the update on the bond centre and that whole process, oh my gosh, it's laborious, isn't it? And it's just been begging for an overhaul for a long time. So that's fantastic to hear. That's a perfect segue into my next question. I remember in 2009, REINZ did a massive national campaign called A Call for Change, and it was really exciting at the time. And I remember driving around the country in my role at Property Brokers, getting everyone in behind it in all the various branches. What was this about, and why do you think the industry requires regulation? And what was the outcome of this campaign?
Sure. So for years, I mean, more than 10 years, we've advocated for regulation of the property management profession. We know that most of our property managers do an outstanding job, so it's not about that. But because there are no formal standards or compulsory training, those doing a great job are overshadowed by the minority who don't have any standards, who actually do a terrible job. So regulation will mean that everyone who is operating as a professional property manager will have a set of standards and a code of practice to adhere to. And it will also include a formal complaints process, because we deal with, I'm really proud to say we don't deal with a lot of complaints, but the complaints we deal with are where the clients have felt there's no avenue for them at the tenancy tribunal. So this would involve something, I guess, similar to what salespeople have with the REA, where there's actually a formal process for people to air their grievances if they're not happy. I think one of the other things that we probably don't fully, I don't want to say understand, but property managers are the gatekeepers of millions and millions of dollars of client funds. And there are no formal checks and balances for how the money is handled. With over 40% of New Zealanders now being renters, and many of those will be lifetime renters, we do need to have high standards in our profession when we're dealing with those volumes of money. So for us, regulation is actually about protecting our people who do an amazing job, so that everyone else has to lift their standards.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it's almost counterintuitive, really, that you want to be regulated and have a licensing regime, but those of us that are passionate about the industry and see the benefit of it, it makes sense, I guess. Perfect lead into this next question. And I remember a couple of years ago, at the time, Minister Farfoy was Minister of Housing, and he said that the industry is going to become regulated and they were going to introduce a licensing regime. There's been a few years since then, but can you provide us with a bit of an update on what's happening there and what can we expect?
So we were in discussions with the policy advisors for HUD just before Christmas. In fact, the last week before we closed in December, and they have got some framework ready. Now, we have not seen the framework yet, but we understand that it will be coming out in the next 3 to 6 months. So we're really looking forward to that. But my discussions with HUD have been around things like mandating professional business insurance, yes. So professional indemnity insurance when something goes wrong, having a rental trust account or a client fund account that is independently reviewed. So at least once a year you have an auditor or someone suitably qualified coming in and having a look at your accounts to check that your processes are correct. One of the other things we've talked about is ongoing professional development training. So yes. Similar to salespeople, they have to do 10 hours of verifiable training a year. I think we'll see some sort of regime like that, where you will be required to do a certain amount of training each year. And the other thing they would look to, and REINZ already have it, is a professional code of conduct. So I don't think it's a really heavy-handed approach. I think it's a lighter touch with some key things, because they are very aware of keeping it cost effective. They know the number of small businesses operating in New Zealand as property managers, and they don't want a situation where the cost just becomes so great once regulation is in place.
Yeah, the ongoing training like verifiable for sales is so valuable. When you see what they do, the non-verifiable and verifiable each year, and 10 hours of each, and so valuable. And as we all know, that knowledge is power in this industry, and I think it's that in itself will lift the standard significantly. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The training is, when we do workshops and we have guest speakers and experts come in, the feedback we often get is, that was great information. I wasn't aware of that. I mean, we need to give ourselves a break. We're human and we get things wrong. We only know so much. And for smaller businesses, it can be really hard keeping up with all the changes.
Oh, it's impossible. It's very, very difficult. Incredibly difficult. I guess it comes down to intent and just trying to do the best thing.
Yep.
With the regulation and licensing, is that going to be for agencies only initially, or is this going to be for everyone that manages properties, such as private landlords? Do you have any idea of that?
I think it's a challenge with private landlords and how they approach that, and I'm not sure. We haven't got into those discussions too much, because for our focus has been on what we can influence, and that's been the members and property managers that we work with. We need to start somewhere, and it may be a model that over time introduces more parts to it. I mean, I think they've tried with the RTA Amendment Act, they have tried to pull in private landlords with multiple properties by increasing those fines substantially.
Yes.
And I think that's part of their approach. In terms of regulation, I'm not sure what the shape will look like for private landlords. But we have sort of been given an indication, as I spoke about earlier, of the basic framework for property managers as such.
Right. So if I'm a property manager or a business owner, and I have a team of property managers, and at the moment there are several options available for training, such as Skills Level 4, Real IQ, what REINZ provides. And we at Property Brokers used to really push our team to become accredited as well. What's your advice around, is that still a good thing to do? Will that complement this potential regulation licensing regime?
So if some compulsory ongoing development training comes in, they'll obviously set a date in which you've got time to complete it. So we're not sure what that date will be. But in terms of the REINZ accreditation, that is an accreditation you can apply for if you've completed the New Zealand Certificate in Property Management. And I think you really need to look at it from the point of view that it's a mark of quality. It shows your clients that you've gone over and above in your professional training to deliver the very best service that you can. We have seen a marked increase in members applying for the accreditation. Most of them have completed the New Zealand Certificate in Property Management, and they have easily been able to accumulate 10 hours of professional development training through in-house training, webinars through REINZ, other expert speakers they've been to. And I think it gives your clients some peace of mind. It's no different to when you and I are looking at a service for ourselves. We're looking for evidence that the people are professional and that they're going to be able to do the job. And I think that REINZ, the accreditation, the history with REINZ does give you that credibility in the industry. Look, if you've completed the New Zealand Certificate in Property Management through REINZ in the last 12 months, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to apply for the accreditation, and then it's $40 annually after that. But if you're not sure, you can contact me and we can chat about it. There has been a massive increase in people enrolling for the New Zealand Certificate in Property Management as well. I don't even think that's about regulation. I think that's about people realising we need to upskill. There's been so many changes in our industry. knowing a little bit about everything is now not good enough.
No, it's become specialised, isn't it?
Has
And
absolutely become specialised.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Look, if you're passionate about it and you want to do a good job, then personal growth and development is just a given. We all do it. So REINZ memberships, there's lots of benefits. If I'm a business owner and I'm sitting here watching this, contemplating whether I'm going to join or get my team to join, what are some of the benefits of becoming a REINZ member for property management?
Sure. So I think what we do is we keep on top of all the legislative changes in the industry and how they impact your day-to-day role. So we also have a rental statistics portal. So we collect data directly from NBIE and realestate.co, and that site has an automated appraisal tool to help property managers save time when they're collecting comparable data just for rental appraisals or rental reviews. I think more importantly for me, I'm seeing that joining REINZ is about connecting with others in the industry and sharing the day-to-day issues that we're facing. We've got huge support and camaraderie. We have really good attendance at all of our events. I mean, our website, it is a little bit clunky. I'm okay to say that because it's currently going under a digital transformation process. Has so many resources for property managers. We have webinars, we have information sheets, we have lawyers talking, we have gas expert specialists on your gas appliances, we have a lawyer talking about fencing disputes. If you want something, you will find it on our website. And most of the time, it's free, it's there for you to log on and to watch something. And we haven't made our courses long because we know that a lot of people are zoomed out. So we've tried to do things in shorter versions, 30 minutes or less or 40 minutes or less. So as an owner, you could get a weekly update with any key changes. You can get legislative updates. You can get rental stats. And I'm going to go on to legal support now. So shall I just run into that?
You go.
So you've talked about tenancy services being a little hit and miss with responses. And I guess we've seen big delays with actually being able to get through to them. And I think if we look into the future, the tenancy services will probably be more pointed towards tenants and private landlords, not professional property managers, because they expect us to know our stuff. So it may get harder to even get through to tenancy services. And I know you now have to select whether you're a property manager or a tenant. So you know who the call is coming from. And I'm sure all sorts of our property management professionals have tried a number of different sequences to get through. But look, our legal team, we have a dedicated in-house legal team. So we have a general counsel and we have 2 lawyers. And they're on hand to provide you with information and feedback on any of your queries. We're all human and sometimes we get it wrong. We would receive emails and calls on a daily basis from our property managers.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's what we're there for. And some of our members simply want to have a sounding board and say, look, I've got this situation from a legal perspective. What are the options? And others have more technical questions. And while we won't tell you you have to do this, what we will do is say, well, these are the facts from a legal point of view.
Yeah. And
you can consider. And sometimes it might not be what you want to hear, but we have trained lawyers. Joyce Chu is one of our she's come from a property law background. She's fluent in Mandarin, and she is just a fantastic person to bounce off if you've got something that you need some help with. Very thorough. Often people will come to me, I will think about their scenario and I will go to the legal team to say, well, from my experience, this is what I think. And then they will finalise it. So absolutely a helpline. And we get a lot of people, we're getting a lot of people calling us on that just to sound some things out. So that's available.
one of the key things from today, for those of you that are watching it, is that legal support. And I've been general manager of property brokers and large agencies, and that service for our team was invaluable. And the tenancy service is hit and miss, but I've always found that so valuable. And I mean, how many times did I used to call you, Joe, just for a sounding board? You know, am I getting this right? Those conversations I personally found great. So yeah, highly recommended on that space. And the training that you, REINZ, provide, I know that you did a lot of sessions specifically for us, and always looking forward to the conferences, and I know there's other events coming up. What are the ongoing training and those opportunities to get with your colleagues and chat and talk? What's the sort of thing that you're focusing on going forward?
Sure. So I think one of the things we spend a lot of time on is reviewing and understanding all the legal changes and putting them into an easy to read format for members. So I mean, trying to read through legal jargon can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So that we break things down into useful information sheets for people to read, and we will continue to do that. And no doubt there will be something coming out on the changes with the heating standard once that's passed. The other thing is we have regular webinars with MB. So we get people actually in the government area who will come and talk to us online, and we advertise those, and our members and non-members can attend those. And the other thing is we work with a number of expert speakers. I know, well, you and I have had the privilege of working with Phil Thompson, who is just the most amazing person in helping you to understand how to deal with pressure situations. We've got some more workshops coming up with Phil, Auckland and Wellington, and also a privacy expert. So we'll put those out for you, and you can share those. Something else that we did last year was, so we ran webinars on healthy homes. Boarding houses is another thing that people don't really understand. We ran a little bit of a mini campaign around swimming pool safety. Yes. Because very sadly, property managers and tenants don't really understand their boundaries in terms of what they're responsible for, but actually we're all responsible when a property's rented. And since we wrote all the guides for the swimming pool safety, sadly there's been another toddler drown in a portable swimming pool in a rented property. So for people who didn't get that information, I think, well, we shared it with you. Yeah. Freely share it out to everyone. That's a really big thing. Privacy is massive. A lot of people still aren't understanding about the changes to the Privacy Act and fines for getting it wrong and breaches. Yeah. So we're going to do some more work on that space, but we've already got a webinar up about privacy now, a really thorough webinar that will give you lots of tips and pointers. And it also goes through into COVID questions with tenants. So those are the sort of things that are on our website now.
There is so much at the moment, isn't there? There's the COVID question marks. How do you approach the stuff? You know, what's reasonable, what's not reasonable, the privacy changes. I know our software, we're doing a massive overhaul on the two-step process that we need to now follow. But there is so much stuff going on at the moment. And I really don't know how people would navigate through it without the support of REINZ and that ongoing training, because where's the source of truth? Where do you get your information from? Because you just get bombarded with so much stuff. And I think that's the power of what you guys provide is you do your research, you consolidate all the information, and then you provide that in easy to understand information for the industry.
Yeah, and I think some of the other stuff we've been doing, is we've been producing some information sheets that property managers can give to their landlord clients, so that they understand what we have to work with. Because the whole methamphetamine situation is totally rock and a hard place at the moment for us. So we produced a methamphetamine information sheet that you can sit down with your owners and say, hey, this is what it is now, this is the Gluckman report, these are the tribunal findings. So I want to give you all the information so that you can make a choice based on what we have to work with the current law. So we've just done that. The other thing we did was a landlord information sheet around the changes to the RTA so that people understand why they can't just give no cause notices now.
Yeah.
So we've tried to give our members something like to assist them when they're going to talk to new people who simply don't understand the massive overhaul with regulation in the last 2 years. It's just so different.
It's very difficult. And those workflow diagrams that you guys brought out to show the process that you go through now for issuing notice, that for us was invaluable for providing to the agents. The sales agents at our company, and because they had no idea as well, and just that simple workflow was fantastic. It was really good.
Yeah, and I think even things like property managers, when you're not attached to a real estate agency, and then you get approached by a real estate salesperson who's wanting you to give you copies of the tenancy agreement and everything, understanding from a privacy point of view what you can and you can't share, because you can get into trouble there. So we've tried to cover off all of that. I think for us, the other thing we're focused on is trying to support people in the mental health space. So we're doing some work now on a new program we'll be bringing out, and it's trying to ensure that members have a healthy work-life balance. I mean, I would say, well, you and I are probably some of the biggest offenders of not having a healthy work-life balance, but I'm getting better. I'm getting much better at that than I was in the past. But it's really important for those of you who are working in property management to not burn yourselves out, because sometimes you just don't know when to stop.
I can put my hand up and say I've been that burnt out person before. So no, I completely hear what you're saying there, Joe. Just finally, and I'll put this information up as well, but for people that are listening, what does it cost to become a member of REINZ? And if they want to find out more information, how do they do that?
Sure. So honestly, if you want to find out information, just email or call me. So email me. My email is jrae, JRAE @reinz.co.nz, and Will can put that up. Yes. And I'm also happy for Will to put up my cell phone number as well. I don't have a problem with that. I know sometimes you've just got to get an answer on something, so that's fine. In terms of joining, if you're a small business, so we class small businesses 3 or less property managers, the cost is $350 per person per annum, plus just, and that provides you with access to everything. All the resources, the helpline, the rental stats website, any free webinars we've got, you can just log on and do those. For larger property management business, so you're talking 4 or more, there's a base fee, and the base fee is $970, and then each property manager is $150 per year. What you can do as well is you can join your admin staff for $45 a year. I mean, it's nothing, but it does mean that if your admin person is involved in maybe helping with a monthly newsletter, they can get all the content from the REINZ update and help building it. They can look at the stats. If you have a business where people do multiple roles, maybe that is useful to have that admin person being able to log on and look at some rental stats to help you with rental appraisals. I don't know. But what I do know is I feel the cost is very reasonable, and we design the membership package for small business because we know how many of you are running small businesses. I mean, I've run a small business where there's been 3 of us. That's it. And you do everything. And you do need someone to rely on. And I guess finally, the other thing I want to say is it can be overwhelming bringing new people into the industry now because there's so much for them to learn. So REINZ have designed a beginner's course for someone with no knowledge about property management. They've got all the great personality skills, but they really don't understand the industry. The beginner's course is $199 plus just. So such a cheap course and a very good overview. But really, we're here to help you. I love it when we get new members and we can share with them everything. We have orientation around our stats site, so we get a person specifically to show you around it. And I think you're missing out if you're not part of an organisation. And I'm not saying specifically REINZ, but in this day and age, our profession, you need support and help around you. It's pretty tough out there.
Absolutely, it is, and I couldn't advocate for it more strongly, especially in this world and how specialised it's becoming. To keep up to speed and understand the role, you got to do it. But thank you so much, Joe. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And for those of you that want to know more, contact Joe. I'll provide all the information and have a chat with her and go from there. But thank you for listening and thanks for your time, Joe.
Excellent. Thanks, Will.
All right.
Bye. Bye.